Fear is a good beginning point. You see, understanding what God could do to you is a cause for fear. They were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. What happened next should scare anyone.
You're watching Timeless Talks, timeless subjects, information for life.
Let's begin today by reading a story about people being super fearful. It begins in Exodus chapter 19, verse 16. So it came about on the third day, when it was morning, that there was thunder and lightning flashes and a thick cloud upon the mountain and a very loud trumpet sound, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. And its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently. When the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him with thunder. Now, immediately after this, Moses received those famous 10 Commandments. But immediately after that is where the story continues. Exodus 20, beginning in verse 18. All the people perceived the thunder and the lightning flashes and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, and the people saw it. They trembled and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, or we will die." Now don't miss this really important part here. This is super important. Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid, for God has come in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may remain with you, so that you may not sin." God intended for the Israelites to fear him, and it to be a motivation to keep them from sinning. Nehemiah, as a leader of Jerusalem during the reconstruction of the wall, could have lived quite sumptuously. He was authorized to make demands on poor, ordinary people, but he did not. Why? Because he knew what God was capable of doing to him. His fear of God prevented him from abusing the poor. King David also told us that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And his son King Solomon added by saying that the fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. You see, understanding what God could do to you is a cause for fear. And fear opens the door to wisdom and understanding. You know, the New Testament has a similar kind of fear. It comes from the word phobos. You know, we get that word phobia from it. It means to be put in fear, or that which strikes terror. Matthew recorded a scary event for us. Jesus had been praying alone on a mountain, but he had instructed his disciples to take the boat and go to the other side of the lake, even though it was night. Matthew recorded, when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. They were screaming in fear. The ghost was the cause, or the force, that caused the terror. For just a moment, picture yourself as being one of those Roman soldiers charged with the duty of guarding the tomb of Jesus. Your whole duty is to not let that tomb be opened, or else. Suddenly, you feel the earth shaking under your feet. You see an angel coming from above. He comes down, rolls back that big, huge stone by himself, and then he sits on it. Why didn't you stop him? Well, Matthew said, the guards shook for fear of him and became like dead men. No, they didn't die from fright, but maybe they did pass out. Did you? And what about the time that Ananias and Sapphira told a lie? You see, they had sold some land, kept some of the money for themselves, but they told everyone, including the apostles, that they were contributing 100% of the sale. What happened next should scare anyone. Peter told him, "You have not lied to men, but to God." And when he heard these words, Ananias fell down and breathed his last. And great fear came over all who heard of it. Now let me make this very clear. Fear is a good beginning point with God. The fear of suffering now because of sin is a potent power. The grief caused by adultery. Pain is caused by hatred. And every sin will dominate and become an addiction. But fear as a deterrent to sin needs to change. Fear needs to become something better. There is more to living for Jesus than just avoiding hell. Picture for a moment a gauge in your car. The needle points to one extreme, say the left side. Left is the fear of what God can do to you direction. That is what we have been illustrating in this talk. But it needs to move. But where should it go? Paul, the writer of 2 Corinthians, said, "Therefore, having these promises, beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all defilement of flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God." This is a movement away from total fear. It is moving toward being sinless and a life filled with purpose and meaning. It is a movement away from the negative toward the positive side of God. But this movement needs to go further, beyond living sinlessly and more toward respect and reverence. You see, the extremeness of fear is still there, but it's not the driving force for living for Jesus. Now, don't miss this critical idea. God is more interested in moving you toward a greater, more positive outlook on your life and your relationship with God. So, where is this movement going? Listen to Galatians 4. "But when the fullness of time came, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, so that he might redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. Because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, saying, Abba, Father. Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God." Jesus, God's own Son, came to redeem us. And the purpose of redemption is so that we can be adopted as sons. And if sons, we have a close relationship with God. Those words, Abba, Father, conveyed to the Hebrew mind a strong form of affection. This is the same affection that Jesus called on when he was praying to his Father in the Garden of Gethsemane. But this relationship leads us to being an heir. You can be an heir of God, understanding all his abilities and his will to give you a life to be enjoyed. You see, the movement ends in us having a perfect love, an agape type love for God. John the Apostle wrote a definitive passage about the relationship between fear and love. He said, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves punishment. And the one who fears is not perfected in love." Fear, or phobos, cannot coexist with agape love. Where love is present, it has already cast out the fear. Fear is based on the possibility of being punished. Anyone who fears is not made complete or whole in the strongest form of love. So let's put all this together. Beginning with the terror of what God could do to us, we develop a relationship that moves us closer and closer and closer and closest to God. We fear him. Then we respect him. Then we begin to see his grace, his mercy, his patience with us. We want more of it. So we strive to be sinless and useful to him. And we end up having an agape type love for God. And we want to give him our very best. It's okay at the beginning to be scared of God, terrified of him, being scared of being sent to hell, so much so that you will avoid sin. That is just fine. But then we need to notice what he's trying to do with us. Then we will naturally begin the movement toward him. And the good news is it can end in being given, by his grace and mercy, a place prepared by Jesus himself in heaven. If you would like more information about this kind of fear, we would be glad to provide it to you. It is mostly just a set of scriptures. You can read it for yourself. Just send us an email to contact@timelesstalks.net. Or, if you prefer, you can call or text the number that you see on the screen. Let us know that you want the scriptures about fear. If you want a printed copy, you will need to give us a complete mailing address. You'll find the contact page link down below. We hope that you found this video helpful in your search for a wonderful life here and now, today. You can find a lot of other videos, free transcripts, and booklets at timelesstalks.net. Use that QR code that you see here, or you'll find another link in the description down below. We love you, and we want only the best for you. Thank you for watching. Come back tomorrow and let's visit some more. Until then, well, goodbye for now.